to the Thought Snob Podcast. I'm Paula Swope. Let's get snobby. When I was preparing for my interview with my guest today, Karen Olson, something came to mind that I was told when I was a child. People would often say to me, God will never put more on you than you can handle. Now, throughout my lifetime, that theory has been tested before my eyes many times. And Karen's story might be the most significant test of this theory I have ever seen. Her story is incredibly inspiring because it's an actual tragedy to triumph scenario. In 1981, marketing executive Karen Olson hurried to a business meeting in New York City. An elderly homeless woman outside Grand Central Station caught her eye. Impulsively, Karen darted across the street and bought the woman a sandwich and an orange juice. She listened to the woman's story and learned her name. It was Millie. This small act of kindness changed the trajectory of Karen's life. With her leadership, determination, and ability to bring people together, Karen launched a grassroots local outreach to the homeless, primarily families, that today has turned into a national movement known as Family Promise, with 200 affiliates across the country serving nearly 250,000 people each year. For her work, Karen received the prestigious annual Points of Light Award from President George H.W. Bush and the New Jersey Governor's Pride Award, recognizing her remarkable social service contributions. In her new book, Meant for More, Following Your Heart and Finding Your Purpose, Karen shares her journey, the stories of volunteers and lives changed, and why we must choose to make a difference. All of us have much to learn from this lady right here. So without further ado, Karen, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Paula. It's great to be here.
Well, I'm thrilled to have you here. And as we talk today, I think you'll see that you and I have a lot in common. And I've read some of your book. I haven't had time to read it entirely, but I know enough at this point to see that you have prevailed under circumstances that would have caused the demise of most people. And I want our listeners to have some background about that so they can get a big picture of what motivated you to look outside yourself and help others. And so where I want to start is leading up to that moment that you felt compelled to meet Millie. What experiences with loss and suffering led to you cultivating empathy for people like Millie? Because homeless people are harshly judged and criticized, and most people don't approach them out of fear. So just leading up to that moment, what caused you to do that?
It began when I was 12. I grew up in Darien, Connecticut, which is a very affluent community. In fact, there are 5 country clubs, and I had an idyllic childhood. We lived in a dead-end street, had lots of friends. We played games, hide and seek, and Red Rover, and all that kind of stuff. And I loved to swim, and so did my mother. And my mother would go to the beach every day. There were 2 beaches in Darien. We go to Pear Tree Point, and all the kids would, come over, and she'd take a car full of kids, myself, to Pear Tree Point Beach, and it was just wonderful to swim and dive, and everything was just idyllic. But then I suffered a tragic, unthinkable loss, and I'll lead up to that. I was in the first year of junior high. I was in 7th grade, and I took the bus, and I said goodbye to my mother in the morning. She gave me a kiss. She gave me my books, and I walked across the path. And I turned and I waved to her. And normally, when I waved to her, she would, when I turned around again, she wouldn't be there. But this time, she was. She kept waving. I'd take it, walk across to the neighbor's yard, and she was still waving. Further turn, she was still waving. I waved back. Went over the stone wall. She was still waving. I waved back. And then I got to school, and at lunchtime, we shared a space. In my homeroom, I had lunch, and Mr. Luce, who was a Latin teacher, um, was in charge of the lunch, and I brought my lunch, but I liked ice cream sandwiches, so I bought an ice cream sandwich. So here I had finished my lunch and was about to eat my ice cream sandwich, and someone from the principal's office came in and said to Mr. Luce, I guess that Karen, we need to see Karen in the office, and they were whispering. And so I immediately got up, and he said, no, sit down and finish your ice cream sandwich. I was worried because I know I didn't do anything wrong. When I got to the office, they said, you're needed at home. And so one of the secretaries drove me home and had a lot of chatter and everything, I guess, not to have me ask what was wrong. I got there, my grandmother was there, and that was unusual because she worked in Macy's book department, and she takes a train on Monday mornings at about 7:25. So she shouldn't have been there, but there she was going down the path. And she said to me, Mom had a nervous breakdown. And so I didn't think that was too bad because I know my mother had been depressed. I had a 2-year-old sister, and she had postpartum depression. My father also had an affair, and that kind of broke her heart. So the fact that she had nervous breakdown, I knew. I've heard that term before, and I thought some women in Darien had nervous breakdowns too. So I wasn't terribly worried. But then fast forward just 2 days, 5 days before Christmas, um, I was sitting watching television, and my dad came in, and he stood in front of me, and he said, Mom died. And he didn't put his arm around me or anything. He just stood in front of me. So I jumped up, and I started pounding my fists on his chest. And then he said, here, take this. The doctor said to take this pill. And then it kind of knocked me out. And then from there, my world was shattered. It created a hole in my heart. And, didn't know how to fill that hole. But the natural response for me was to help others who were hurting because I knew what hurt was. And that was almost immediate. It wasn't that way before. I wanted to be like Esther Williams and swim the English Channel or Sonia Henney and skate. I was just happy. But then after that, just wanted to help people. And I wanted to become a nurse. And my stepmother persuaded my father not to send me to nursing school. She told me that she was a nurse and I didn't have what it takes to be a nurse. And so that dream was shattered just like that. But then I realized, God sometimes closes one door so that another door can open. And I think back, had I become a nurse, maybe if I were lucky, I'd be in charge of one floor.
Mm-hmm.
But that passion didn't leave me, and it ended up creating this big organization that has helped so many, not just our guests, homeless families, but are volunteers as well.
Yeah, you had a much bigger life purpose than maybe
Mhm.
what you thought when you wanted to be a nurse.
Nurse.
And I'm
Yeah.
so sorry that you had to experience all of that. My father also had an affair when I was a teenager that led to my parents' divorce. And I never got any real confirmation that my mother had a nervous breakdown, but am convinced that she suffered something similar, and it left her traumatized, and she didn't realize that. And so I have lived that life. I've experienced that, and it is heartbreaking, and it absolutely rips a family apart. And when you're the child and you're in that situation, you do start to see the world differently, and the role that you play in the world a lot differently. And again, I know you and I we have a lot in common, and I don't know if you know this or not, but I also felt a calling to help people a long time ago, and that led me to the nonprofit world. I worked in fundraising for many years, but my specialty was grant writing. And I mean, I had a remarkable run. My portfolio says I raised $60 million for
That's amazing.
various
Never heard of
nonprofits.
anybody raising that much money. That's amazing.
Yeah,
That's
and
wonderful.
it was a lot of fun at times, but really stressful work. But when I
Um,
got on your website, when I got on Family Promises website, I viewed the information on there through, the lens of a donor or a grant maker, and I thought, oh my God, this is like a dream client for a
mhm.
grant writer, because you have everything in place that donors and grant makers want. I mean, you've got an all-star board of directors, you have data-driven outcomes. On the homepage, it says Family Promise serves 63,000 families just in
I know.
2023, 97,000 kids in 2023, and 81% of families in shelter exit to stable housing. That is incredible. And so this is a
Yeah.
nonprofit that produces results. The work is scaled. And I mean, you've shown like proven sustainability. It's like the perfect recipe for funding. And when you started
Mhm.
this nonprofit, I mean, did you have a vision to scale the work to that magnitude? Because you have a
No.
presence in almost every state in
Yeah.
America.
Yeah. No, I didn't. But the key is there's compassionate Americans all across the country, and sometimes all they need is a way to help. And so they were able to get involved in their own community, their own church, synagogue, or mosque. And so it became very local. And when they got involved, they didn't simply just provide meals and overnight accommodations. They did so much more. They helped families find housing, jobs. They repaired cars, donated cars, all above and beyond what is required to be a volunteer in Family Promise. So it's in compassion all across the country that really drove the growth. I mean, we provided a way, and I'll explain that way. Each congregation that participates agrees to house homeless families that once a quarter for 1 week. And so they take the families in on a Sunday night. The volunteers have prepared classrooms or private rooms for the families. Meals are provided. Volunteers dine with the families. And then in the morning, the van picks the families up and they go into Elizabeth, which is an urban area in New Jersey. And from there, the kids go to school and the parents go to work or look for jobs or housing. So it's something congregations can do, and they really make an incredible difference.
Absolutely. It sounds like that really the way that Family Promise helps families to get back on their feet is you basically break down every barrier that one may face to exiting homelessness.
That's
Because you
true.
address the whole family. Is that right?
Right. Yes, the whole
Yeah.
family.
Yeah.
And we define family as a man with children, a woman with children, or couples with children. And Family Promise also does a lot with homelessness prevention. We prevent homelessness by providing temporary funding to support a family, case management, and reunification with family members, that sort of thing, because you can prevent homelessness so much better than having families, of course, experience it.
So I saw on your website, and I was astounded by this. It says that 2.5 million children will experience homelessness this year. What do you think is causing that? That seems like an
Mm-hmm.
astounding number to me.
Mm-hmm. Well, the thing is, you don't see homeless children sitting on a park bench or sitting on a subway grate. Family homelessness is almost invisible. These are families oftentimes working and they lose a job or they have an illness or divorce, and before you know it, they get behind in the rent and they're evicted. So the issue is poverty. The symptom is really homelessness. And so these are children who are with families who, it doesn't take much if you're um, have poverty wages or below poverty wages for something to come along, like I just described. But
Right.
those are the precipitating causes of homelessness. The root cause is the lack of affordable housing. So you may, for instance, drive in your car and go to the McDonald's window and you get your order, and the woman at the window says, "Have a good day." And then later, after her shift is over, she may retreat to her car, and that's where she's living, and perhaps with her 2-year-old. So, on the one hand, we see people experiencing homelessness, but we don't identify them as homeless. Our society identifies people who are homeless as the man lying on the subway grate or the woman pushing a shopping cart with all her belongings and bags. So homeless families are invisible, but they account for up to 35% of all those who are homeless. 6 million people, according to the Department of Education, are homeless experiencing homelessness annually.
That's
So it's a
unbelievable. It's
tragedy.
unbelievable. And as I have traveled over the years to cities that I have visited my entire life, and Nashville, Tennessee is the first example off the top of my head. I have gone to Nashville. I live in Kentucky, was born and raised here, which is just one big rural poverty pocket, really. So I can totally relate to the dynamics at play with poverty and how that could lead to homelessness. Absolutely. But I've gone to Nashville, Tennessee since I was a child. I remember the first time I went to the Grand Ole Opry at the Old Ryman. I don't know, probably 5. There were no homeless people. I didn't see them. I'm sure there
Mhm.
were. I didn't see them. I continued to go there over the years. I never saw any homeless people in the streets, ever. And then 2 years ago, my husband and I took a trip to Nashville to see a show or something. And there were homeless people everywhere. I couldn't believe it. And it's been more prevalent that I have noticed since COVID. Do you think that COVID contributed to like what I suddenly started seeing in Nashville?
People were then out of jobs because they were sick, and they got behind in the rent. And yeah, I think it caused a problem right across the board for families and, of course, individuals as well.
When someone tells you over and over again that you can't have what you want, you believe it. And those beliefs, unless they are interrupted, have the power to destroy your life. This book takes you on a journey of self-assessment, self-reflection, and self-empowerment, but it's not a quick fix. It's a playbook to a better life. And if you emulate my spiritual teachings, your life won't look the same 1 year from now. I want you to know that if you want something, you're meant to have it. That burning desire that you've always had is there for a reason. Your intuition tells you that you are supposed to do whatever you want to do, and that's why the burning desire never goes away. You may have shut it out a time or two in your lifetime, but it always comes back. Together, we're going to bring that burning desire to life. You can attract whatever you want, regardless of your past and present circumstances. When we're done with your spiritual transformation, those who have treated you badly will wish they hadn't. Miracles aren't reserved for the saints. We sinners are just as entitled to miracles, so let's go get yours. Well, and I want to go back to what you were saying a bit ago about going through the drive-through and the lady taking your order and saying, "Have a nice day." And then after her shift is over, she goes to her car, and maybe that's where she's living with her child, which is unbearable for me to think about, really. And I want to draw some attention to this because part of your work is to, point out that homelessness is not always that stereotypical situation.
No, not at all.
Right. It could be somebody like the lady that you're talking about, and through something that maybe no fault of her own ended up in that situation because of poverty. It's not because she's a drug addict or she's an alcoholic or anything of the sort.
Yeah.
And in chapter 5, I just want to just briefly read a few sentences, what you say about that here, because I want our listeners to fully grasp this, and so they can, the next time they see a homeless person, maybe they can view them through a more compassionate lens. And so in chapter 5, you write, "We often feel conflicted when a homeless person approaches us. Though we may be willing to give some change or even a few dollars for a meal, we second guess ourselves and wonder if they will use the money to buy alcohol or drugs. When we see a young person begging, we ask ourselves, why can't they get a job? We hesitate, feeling uncomfortable about giving or not giving them something, and these mixed feelings come to the fore every time we hear the word homeless. Unfortunately, the stereotyped perceptions of what homelessness is in our society are reinforced by how people experiencing homelessness are portrayed in the programs we watch on television and in films. Many people are visible members of our communities working alongside us and in the business we frequent can be homeless without us recognizing them as people in need of a place to live that they can afford." And
yeah, that's exactly it.
Yeah, that's exactly it, right? And I think that most of us just don't realize that and don't see the big picture. And you did.
Well, I gradually did. I mean, I first started, I first gave a sandwich to a woman outside of Grand Central Station, a sandwich and an orange juice, and I learned her name, Millie. And it was at point I crossed an invisible line. After I gave her the sandwich, she reached her hand up to mine, and I took her hand in mine. And I realized at that point, you know, I crossed this invisible line.
Mm-hmm.
And then I told my two sons about Millie, and then from there we would go into New York City and bring sandwiches. And we saw that a lot of people who were experiencing homelessness, singles, were sitting on benches. In fact, anybody sitting on a bench was not waiting for their bus. They were simply homeless. But from there, I then began to volunteer in my own county in a soup kitchen, and that's where I met homeless families. So it was gradual. At first, I just thought homelessness was synonymous with the people I saw on the street, but it was after talking to families in Elizabeth who were experiencing homelessness that I saw a whole new face of homelessness, people I would never have seen before. And, today I could go down the street and I would still see people who were homeless and not know they were homeless.
Right.
I'll give you an example of a woman who was in our program not too long ago. Her name is Hope Nelson, and she was working. She was a waitress, and she had another part-time job, and she had a daughter, 1-year-old daughter, Olivia. And one morning, she woke up, and her eyes were all blurry. She couldn't see out of her eyes, but she went to work. By the time she went to work, her coworker said, "Your eyes are bleeding." So they took her to the doctor, and the EMT, the emergency services said that she probably caught a virus from her daughter who was in preschool. And so Hope was blind for 6 months. And during that time, she had to stop working. So she didn't have the income. And soon she was evicted and homeless with no place to go. But, just before that, she was serving somebody, a cheese omelet and an English muffin, and she was in the workforce. But so it can happen suddenly. The issue is poverty, and people who are making low wages, they don't have a bank account that they can fall back on. And if they don't have parents who can help or other family members, they can end up homeless. But that's the working poor.
It's unbelievable. I mean, it's very, very sobering to hear about a story like that. So you're retired now, right?
Yes.
And so, what is your role in this day and time with Family Promise? Are you still
Well,
active or?
after I retired, I had lots of speaking engagements, which I had when I was the CEO, but I continued to speak across the country. But when I retired, I was looking forward to spending time with my family and doing some travel. And I had a small condo in Miami Beach, which I love very much. And I one day, well, the day specifically was February 12th, 2019. I was relaxing by the side of the pool. It was sunny, and I was just saying, life is so good. It's nice to have this freedom and free time and everything. And I had a 2 o'clock appointment for a cryotherapy. Do you know what cryotherapy is?
I do cryotherapy about 3 times a week.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah.
that's fine. No, I did too. Okay,
Yeah.
then you're a believer. We have that in common too.
We have a lot in
And
common. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
So I had done cryotherapy about 30 times from Summit, New Jersey to Miami Beach. And so I had an appointment, and the person at the desk said, the woman is new, but she's fully trained. And I thought, well, that's fine because I never had any problem. But it became very, very cold in the chamber. Well, I really didn't feel anything at that point. We know that cryotherapy is cold,
Mm-hmm.
but this was, I lost consciousness, or I had no, I didn't really lose consciousness, but I had no feeling in my body. And I guess I said, I'm cold, I'm cold. So she went around to open the door. But she stood behind the door, but my body was frozen. In fact, when the EMTs came, they said I was hypothermic.
Oh my God.
So, yeah. So I fell out like a popsicle and hit my head on a raised ledge and began bleeding from the head. And I couldn't feel anything from my neck down. And so I had the presence of mind to remember my son's phone number. So I called them both and they came right down. And I went to Jackson Memorial Hospital where I had surgery on the back of my neck and have a spinal cord injury. It's called incomplete. When it's incomplete, you have to have a spinal cord injury. That's the kind to have because you can get feeling back or the potential is there. The complete injury is where the spinal cord is severed. So I had hope, Um, so my son, stayed by my side for 30 days, slept in the hospital. He later said, and he's a tough guy. And he said it's the hardest thing he ever had to do, to see his mother in that condition. But I was glad that he was right there for me. And then I left Jackson Memorial and went to Kessler Institute, which is a really good rehab facility. And it's not far from my home. So I now go there as an outpatient, and I now have movement in my arms and my legs. In fact, I even take um, steps with a walker and the help of a therapist, and we make a game of it. I recently had a birthday, and I had to take uh, 80 laps um, before I turned 80, which I did. And it was like a contest. Now they have another contest for me. But you know what? I'm really quite happy. I have an amazing team of aides and physical therapists. They feel like family. So, and I have a wonderful assistant in Jen, who helped me with a good part of my book. In fact, it wouldn't be a book without her. And so everybody feels like family to me, and it's really quite beautiful. We would say, well, Karen, you're in a wheelchair, you're not walking. How can you be happy? But my happiness is not dependent upon my body. My body may be broken, but my spirit is alive and well more than ever. So I'm really quite happy.
Well, and that alone can produce a miracle. When did this happen?
February 12th, 2019. So a little over 5 years, and I've continued to make progress. I wasn't able to take steps, a month or a year after my injury, but I have regular therapy every single day at Kessler, and then I have therapists come to my apartment. In fact, today I have two therapists coming, and we'll be walking the hall with a new contest they have in mind. I don't know what it is. They're great motivators. They're wonderful people.
It sounds like it. Do you have any idea, just because I do cryotherapy?
Oh yeah.
Oh my God. And I
Yeah.
mean, it's been so great. I mean, as far as the health benefits that I've gotten from it, because it reduces inflammation. But now I'm like, hold on a second here. Was it just incompetence on this business's part or something? Did the chamber have a technical error? It just got...
No, the chamber didn't have a technical error. I said, I don't know what temperature it is. I get confused between Fahrenheit. What's the other one? Celsius. Yeah. And I said, I don't know what the numbers are, but so maybe that confused her or something, but she made it way, way, way too cold.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So I don't think, I mean, I never had a problem up to that time, and you've been doing it all this time. And I wouldn't worry unless you have somebody who's new, maybe not that well trained. But, and I think injuries like that, I know my lawyer once searched it. I don't think he found any. So that's an anomaly,
Wow.
Yeah.
You have blown my mind. I knew that you had been in a tragic accident that had placed you in a wheelchair. I didn't know what it was, and now that I know this, oh my goodness, that is blown my mind. But again, I mean, it sounds like that you have channeled that and turned it into the best situation possible. I mean, as you have everything else, it's like, I don't know if you were just naturally born with this strong, high level of emotional intelligence, but your emotional intelligence is incredible. It's unbelievably impressive, and the work that you've done with homeless people, it's like not everybody has that ability to realize that we're all from the same source. We're all different, but we're still all from the same source. And so you were able to see that, with your experience with Millie, and everything you've done is just really, really, really inspiring. And
thank you.
And as I mentioned in your intro, you've been recognized a lot for your accomplishments. What was it like to receive the Point of Light Award from George H.W. Bush?
And to go to the White House.
Yeah, I went to the White House one time. It was really something.
Good.
Yeah.
For what?
Christmas. My friend nice. David was invited to the White House to see the Christmas decorations and do a tour. And
so
he
pretty.
Invited me to go along with him, and so we went, and we had a ball. It was really something. I enjoyed every minute of it. Now, I didn't get an award from the president, so I didn't even meet the president. So what was that like?
Well, it was wonderful, and I sat right next to Barbara Bush, and Michael Jackson was there too.
No way.
And yes, he got an award for helping, I don't know who, children, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But he spilled his drink on the table, and ended up in George Bush's lap. And he said, don't worry. He said, a couple of weeks ago or something, that he was in Japan and he threw up in the prime minister's lap. George Bush did. So he was trying to make Michael Jackson feel better.
Right.
Chris Everett was there, and their honorees. So it was very nice. Barbara Bush said to me that that homelessness is going to be solved with through volunteers and communities banding together. And in part, I agree with her, but there's got to be strong public policies, and one way or another, people have to be able to afford housing.
Sure.
And they have to have wages that, pay a living wage. And at that point, she said to me, or implied, you don't want a communist community. And I said, of course not. But it really it has to be a partnership between the private sector and government to have policies that lift people out of poverty, and create the affordable housing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it was very nice. It was very nice.
Oh my goodness. It sounds
But
incredible.
yeah, but as you know, I mean, those aren't the important things. In fact, I don't even believe that, you know, I did all this um, because I didn't, I feel that God's hand has been in this all along. And so I don't identify with it. In fact, when people say, it must make you feel so good to see all the people you've helped. And that's true, it does make me feel good, but I wasn't really able to take that in until after my accident because I was always moving so fast that I couldn't fully take it in. But now that I have the injury, um, more immobile. And so the silver lining and all that is that I can take it in and I can appreciate how many families have been helped. And then interviewing families for my book, again, I'm reminded of how lives have been changed.
Mm-hmm.
One thing about Hope is, she made friends with the volunteers, and two of the volunteers are the godparents of her children, and they're still, they're friends. So
Mm-hmm.
it's those kind of relationships that change lives. We just all need love and support. And yeah.
Well, you don't meet people like you on every corner. And I do believe that you were born with a grand purpose and a big dharma. And I do believe that God works through people like you. And that's how I
Yes.
think that divine carries out those miracles. Because every
Yes.
single person that has come in contact with you through Family Promise in one way or another, their lives have changed for the better. And you include a lot of those stories about some of the program recipients that have gone through Family Promise. You include stories about those people in your book. Is there one in particular, one person that stands out, or maybe that's Hope? Maybe it's
Well,
her?
yeah, certainly Hope.
Mm-hmm.
And what else, Jen? What?
Sadie.
Yeah.
Sadie,
Yeah.
that's so funny that you say that. It's mine
Have
too.
you opened it?
I tagged her, Sadie. That's the story that
Okay.
got me. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the
She
one.
found her she said she found her North Star
Yeah,
through Family Promise. Yeah.
yeah. And her situation, the reason that it resonated with me so much is because her situation is so common. Is so
Mm-hmm.
common. And I want everybody to to buy your book. It's a must read. And
Mm-hmm.
so I won't give too much of it away, but just so our listeners know, Sadie was somebody who had a crazy abusive ex-boyfriend who would have probably ended up killing her. Really, I mean, she would have been just another statistic
Mm-hmm.
if things hadn't panned out the way that they did. But because of the violence that went on in her apartment, she got evicted and left her and her son with no place to go. And through a couple of different, chain of events, she landed at Family Promise and was able to rehabilitate her whole life and be proud of herself and be a productive member of society instead of falling victim to worst case scenario. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's what your nonprofit does for people. It is absolutely incredible. And so, how
Mm-hmm.
can a person like myself or anybody who's watching get involved with Family Promise? Your website's great. You have call to actions on there everywhere.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But coming straight from
Well,
you,
okay.
yeah,
Well, they can go to our website and see if they have a Family Promise affiliate near them, or if they want to start a Family Promise affiliate, they can contact Family Promise. That's on the website. Each affiliate that starts with a small group of people that want to make a difference. So you can do that. But, there's other ways that, people can make a difference through big brothers, big sisters, Covenant House, or just simple things, helping your neighbor, rake up the leaves from their yard, if they're elderly, or there's small acts of kindness as well that can change lives. I know one small act of kindness that really touched my heart was it was snowing badly in New Jersey, and I had been on a business trip, and the cab brought me home, and I was surprised to see my whole driveway was shoveled, in the walkway and the steps. And then I saw a note squeezed in on the door, and I read it, and he said, I hope I didn't mess anything up, Karen, but I knew your way, so I shoveled your driveway, Chris Jordan. And I couldn't come to throw that note away. It kept showing up everywhere in my house. Every time I would see it, you'd think, well, throw it away. But it meant so much to me with what he did that I couldn't throw it away. So even small acts like that can make a profound difference.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You don't have to, you don't have to go through a nonprofit to make a difference.
You're right. You're exactly right. We have opportunities every single day to extend kindness and to help other people, even if it's just holding a door open for somebody. All of us, all day long, we have those opportunities. We do. And I seize those opportunities a lot, but I could do more. I could do more myself. And so this whole conversation has been inspiring on so many levels, and your resilience is impressive and contagious. And I've loved every moment of this conversation, and I just want to close out with one last question. What is the number one piece of advice that you would offer someone who is experiencing a tragic, life-changing event to the point, they feel like their world is falling apart?
To reach out to friends, if they have friends, and to talk about it, to seek counseling. And when I lost my mother, there were no counselors. People were not seeing psychologists or psychiatrists.
Right.
So I got no help. But reach out and talk to your friend, get counseling, and know that it will pass. It may never fully leave you or will always be there. I like to say that, losing my mother is now scar tissue rather than a big hole in my heart. But this too will pass, but seek help through a friend or counselor.
Yeah, that's great advice.
Mm-hmm.
And try and find opportunities in the middle of uncertainty. I've found that always helps me during the tough times. And so, because I feel like things happen for a reason, and everything can be turned into an opportunity to grow and learn and, lead to something better. So I appreciate you, Karen, so much. Thank you. Thank you so much.
I appreciate you, Paula. Thank you.
The Thought Snob Podcast with Paula Swope has been brought to you by Thought Snob Media in association with Special Purpose Studios. All production, mixing, and sound engineering by me, Will Swope. We hope you've enjoyed this podcast. Please take a few seconds to give us 5 stars and leave a review. See you on the next Thought Snob Podcast with Paula Swope.